the rest of that got to how do we get the journal to UMKC. The first thing I did is I called Dean Pat Kelly and told him that I had a chance to get a journal to the law school, and that to get the journal to the law school, I had to have somebody be the editor. And he said, you know, we have somebody here I think would be perfect for the job. And he said, you know, I'm really glad you called me because we want our family law department to take off. But there's a problem, Mike. Not only do you and I have to convince this person, he still hadn't told me who this person was, we also have to convince the faculty because we have two other journals here at the law school, and I believe one was urban law and the other one was taxation. I could be wrong. I can't remember. There was a second journal, and I said, okay, let me go back to the executive committee. And then I said, no, I don't want to go back to the executive committee. Let me go to Jerry Nissenbaum and Harold Fields and see what they think about putting the journal at UMKC. UMKC was not exactly a big, outstanding law school as far as the rest of the Board of Governors and the committee. I mean, we have people from New York and California and from Florida, New Jersey, and they thought of big schools, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, and I thought I was going to have a problem, and I was surprised I didn't have a problem. So I then called Dean Kelly again and said, I think I can pull it off. What else do we have to do? He says, well, it's time for me to start talking to Mary Kay Kisthardt, and I didn't know you. Mm-hmm. And he said, but you'll like her because she's from the East Coast. And I said, well, that's good. What part of the East Coast? And he said, Boston. And I went, Boston? I don't know, because I thought Red Sox, and because I was a big Yankees fan back then. And he says, is that really important? I said, no, I just made a comment. I said, when do I get to meet her? He said, you don't get to meet her. I have to talk her into it. I said, you mean you suggested somebody to me and you haven't even discussed it with her? He said, right. I said, well, use your charm. And he said, well, you'll get to meet her if she says yes. I said, if she says no, he says, well, I have one other person. And as you can, we have two people, I think, at that time that are in family law, and we'll go to that person. But I really think this is something Mary Kay would really do well at. So I said, fine. I didn't hear anything from him for a couple of weeks. And I'm getting pressure now from the executive committee. What's going on? So I called Pat again. He said, oh, she agreed. As dean, you get very busy around here. I forgot. I said, that's not like you. You wanted to build up the anxiety. He said, you are Welch's partner, aren't you? I said, yeah, and I know that you two guys play poker all the time. I said, I don't appreciate that. There's a reason why I don't play poker with you guys. And he said, okay, she's agreed. I said, fine, when do I get to meet her? He said, well, there's a few things you need to do first. I said, what's that? He said, well, we already have two journals here, and I'm getting some feedback from the faculty senate that we shouldn't have three journals. And I thought, I knew nothing about campus politics, and I said, okay, so if I need to talk to them, I will. He said, yeah, but there's another problem. The University of Missouri Law School has heard about the journal, and they would like to have the journal. I said, but I didn't go to the University of Missouri at Columbia. I went to the University of Missouri at Kansas City, and I'm very grateful to the university, my university. He said, well, you're going to have to go talk to the Board of Curators. I said, I think the Faculty Senate is where I should go first. He said, well, I'll leave it up to you. I said, will you be sitting next to me? And he said, if I have to, but I think you can handle it. He says, don't forget, I'm the one who talked you into going to your firm that you've been with all this time. I think you can handle it. He did sit next with me, and I didn't really get many questions from the Faculty Senate. They just wanted to know that I actually could get the journal to the law school, but they took a vote, and the vote was awfully close with no and yes, and then all of a sudden it went to yes. So I thought, great, we're done. And as Pat and I left, I said, well, when do I get to meet Mary Kay? He said, just got a couple more things you need to do. And I said, what's that? He said, well, there's going to be a cost in this, isn't there? I said, whatever cost the Academy is going to pay. It's our journal. You just get to publish it. Pat didn't appreciate that. I said, you don't have to pay. He said, but the legislature thinks we do. And our costs have to go through the curators and the legislature. So I said, I dealt with the legislature before. He says, yeah, you can handle them. I said, no. I don't want to go through what I went through with Charlotte Thayer and I getting the dissolution of marriage statute that the two of us wrote through the legislature. I said, too much politics, too much religion control. And he said, I don't think that's going to be the problem. Your problem is to convince them that your academy will cover the cost. And so I had to go down there and sit through a finance committee, I forget the name of it, and the one that handled the budgets. And the long and short of it is they didn't give me a hard time either, and I actually wondered why I was even put on the agenda, since I had made the commitment right in my opening statements that the Academy would cover all the cost. And then since I was down there and there was a Board of Curators meeting, I found out I had to go to the Board of Curators, but not for the reason Pat thought I was going to have to go. It turns out that the University of Missouri Law School had an alum on the Board of Curators. And he knew that the law school wanted it, and I knew a lot of people at the University of Missouri Law School because I did a lot of programs for them. And quite frankly, I did almost all of their family law programs, as I did for UMKC and for the Missouri Bar Association. So I go to the Board of Curators. Only one curator grilled me, the MU alum. Why can't it go to the University of Missouri? And I kept trying to explain to them, look, when it comes to competition between our four campuses, it's rather strong. And that's why the University Associates were put together. I said, I'm a member of that organization, and the whole purpose was that the four schools would not compete with each other. And I'm hoping we don't have to compete here, because the only place I will put the journal is at UMKC. If you as the Board of Curators say I can't do that, I will assure you the journal will not come to a Missouri school. I will pass the process on to someone else in the executive committee, and they can go to their law school. And I didn't realize that there was a UMKC curator because I knew nothing about the Board of Curators. The long and short of it was the UMKC curators spoke up, not for a question, but to say, I move that the Academy be allowed to place their journal at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and the vote was 4-1. So thought it was all go, but I still hadn't met you. So the long and short of it is, and I'm saying to myself, Pat actually asked me, what happens if you two don't get along? I said, I can get along with anybody. I said, that's not my concern. I want to know what she thinks she's going to be doing with the journal, because that I have to report on. Because nobody knew you. And Leonard actually went to Margot, and Margot said, I think she can handle it. And then Margot called me, and that's the first time I ever had a conversation with her, and apologized for getting caught in the politics at the University of Wisconsin. And said she would try to help if she could, but she was in the middle of her battles, whether or not she was even going to stay at the University of Wisconsin. So I did meet you. I had no problem with it. Pat said, that's when Pat said to me, now I need to get our faculty vote. I said, you didn't get that? He said, no. I want to go in there with what you've accomplished. So the only vote we have left is from our faculty. And he never would tell me what happened with the faculty except that we were approved. That took me almost 2 years. I was really surprised at how much work I had to go into getting the journal there. And then I found out that when I became president, I was going to have to appoint the editorial board. And I got a lot of pressure because I'd written a lot of articles, and at the University of Toledo Law School, I ended up writing a law review article entitled basically "Children Caught in the Middle of Children, the Innocent Victims of Divorce." It stemmed from a talk that I gave there to the entire school, and the law review editorial staff and the editor came up to me afterwards and said, would you mind just putting that into a law review article? I said, I never participated in a law review at UMKC. I'm not sure I want to do, and I'm not sure I want to take on that role with all the research I would have to do. We'll do all the research. We'll do all the editing. We'll do all the illustrations if we need it. We just need you to put your words onto paper. And would you mind letting us see your notes? I said, you want to see my notes? I handed them a note card. They said, that can't be. You talk for 2 hours. I said, I only planned on talking an hour. And then you said, how about question and answers? And I didn't know I had a women's rights group there and a men's rights group there, and they were firing questions at me left and right. And I was mad at my partner who had graduated from, Tom Locke, who had graduated from the University of Toledo Law School, for talking me into it. And I told him that afterwards, Tom, you owe me a big one. You told me I would only have to talk for an hour. And I said, do you see this little note card? He said, yeah, I saw you look at it once. I said, I did, so I wouldn't mess up on the name of the law school. And the rest of it was off the top of my head. So the long and short is we got through that, and I did the law review article. So they wanted me to appoint myself to the board, and I said, no, I'm not taking on another job at this time. I got the academy to run, and I'll appoint. And then I went to various people that I trusted in the academy and said, who would you, if you needed somebody to review manuscripts and proposed articles, who would you recommend to do it? One person. I don't want 3 names, I want one. And I got that from them, and then most of them didn't listen to me and sent me 2 other additional names. And so out of that group, I picked the board, so I was very pleased with that, and obviously it worked out well with you, and you basically hit the ground running. I think there are 2 things that the Academy, there are really a lot of things the Academy can be proud of. But the two main things from my point of view were the foundation and the journal.